Hey, what's up guys? My name is Alk, and today we are going to be taking a look at the Dynamic Penetration System shader by Raliv. In this video, we're going to be setting up our own custom penetrator, and we're going to be setting up our object that we're going to be deforming through shape keys with the system. So this is primarily going to be a concept video. I'm not going to be showing any not safe for work things whatsoever. What I suggest is that you just sit back and relax and just watch this video, and hopefully you learn something. All right, let's get started. So the reason why we're in Blender is because we first need to set up our penetrator model as well as create the object with the shape keys that are going to be deforming. So let's get started with the penetrator model first. I'm just going to clear my scene here and delete it. Just to make sure, just to clarify, you don't need to make your own custom penetrator model, but this is just going to be a double tutorial that if you want to, then this is how you do it. So yeah, I'm going to go to Shift A to mesh, and I'm going to make a cone. And then I'm gonna go on to the G, Z to lock it to the Z, move it up. And then I'm just gonna grab these vertices here, and I'm just gonna extrude them downwards on the Z. So we have this pointy looking object. And this is way too big, so I'm just gonna scale that down quite a bit. And then I'm just gonna go on G, Z to move it back down. And there we are. Then this is something, the next thing is something that is a requirement of the shader. Basically everything above the world origin is going to be deforming, and everything below the world origin is not going to deform. So what that means is if I go into like side orthographic view, so if I move this down right now, you can see that this part is below the world origin, meaning that everything here is not going to deform, and everything here is going to deform. So I hope that kind of makes sense. This is just a requirement that the shader has. We'll be able to see this in Unity later on more clearly, but yeah. So, okay, I'm just going to go to Control A and apply all my transforms. And, well, actually, while we're here, let me show you another thing. I'm just going to duplicate this object, and I'm just going to position it in such a way that you usually find an object like this. So usually models like this, they come in like this. I guess you can kind of tell what I'm trying to bring across here, but yeah, I'm trying to just bring it down to the concepts so you understand what I'm trying to say, without making it not safe for work. So yeah, so usually a model like this comes in like pointed like this, and then let's just say your cursor is somewhere like this, and you want to bring it down to the world origin, and yeah, without like moving it manually like this. So one thing you can do is go to Object, and then you can go to Snap, and then you can go to Cursor to World Origin. That's going to move the cursor to the world origin. Next thing you can do is select your object, and then you can go to Set Origin. You can go to Origin to 3D Cursor. That's going to move the origin of the object to the 3D cursor. And then you can go to Set Origin, Geometry to Origin, and then all you have to do is go to R, Y, and then point it upwards, or you just, you know, like clear the y-axis so it's pointed upwards. Anyway, let me just clear the x and z as well. But yeah, this is a little like trick to get it down to the world origin without like fussing around with it. All right, so let me just delete the backup that I had and just. There we are. This is our penetrator model. Next, we're going to look at creating the surface that we're going to be deforming with shape keys. So now that we have our penetrator model, we can start working on the object that we're going to deform through shape keys. So let me just hide this real quick. I'm going to go to Shift A, and I'm going to get a mesh, and I'm going to make a cube. And then I'm going to bring it up off the world origin, and then I'm just going to go to edit mode and right click and just subdivide this a couple times. As you know, if you want to smoothly deform something through shape keys, it needs to have the necessary geometry for it to be able to. So that's why I'm adding the necessary geometry. So next I'm going to go to the object data properties, and I'm going to make a basis shape key. And then I'm going to create the first shape key that we're going to be deforming through the system. Now, the cool thing about this system is that you can set up different shape keys that are going to deform at different trigger depths, meaning that you can activate different shape keys the further that your object is moving inside of object B. So that's the cool thing. I'll show you later in Unity, but yeah. Let's first make the first shape key. So I'm going to go to edit mode, sculpt mode, sorry. And I'm just going to make sure my strength is at 1 so I see what I'm doing. And I'm just going to go negative. I'm just going to draw in my, the hole that is like the first shape key. So this is, yeah, this is fine. It doesn't have to be perfect. And once I start moving with the slider now, you can see that this area starts opening up, right? And I'm just gonna shade smooth it. And that's basically the first shape key done. We can make multiple, so let me make trigger 2. And let me just go back to basis real quick. And I'm just gonna go to Shift A and let's add like a cylinder. Let me rotate that 90 degrees on the X, and then move that a little up, and then let's move that into like a corner or something like so. And then what we can do is we can join this up with the cube, and then what we can do now is go to trigger 2 and grab the first row of vertices, and then we can move that up like so. And once we move the slider now, we can see that trigger 2 starts moving outwards and starts activating and starts moving this cylinder outwards. And we can do another one, let's just say a cylinder, another one, 90 degrees on the X, and then move that up and then move that into a corner, like something like so. And then let's join that up with everything else, and then let's make a trigger 3 and grab this one and do something like so. So basically how I want this to work is that so the cone hits the front of the cube, this starts caving in, next it goes further in, this starts moving out, and then finally this starts moving out. So that's how I want the system to work. And all we need to do now is Ctrl A and apply all my transforms on this cube. And now we're pretty much done with the Blender side. Let me go back to basis. It's really important that you export in basis shape keys. And I'm just going to go to File, Export, FBX, Tutorials. I'm just going to call this cube. I'm going to hit selected objects, and I'm going to go to apply scalings FBX all. And I'm going to make sure that I have my cube selected and export FBX. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing for our cone. And selected objects, FBX all, export FBX. So now we can move over to Unity. Right, so here we are in Unity. So the first thing we need to do is make sure that we have our legacy blend shape normals checked. So if I go on my FBXs here, and I'm going to make sure that this is checked. Next thing we need to do is make sure that our shape keys are somewhat working. So if I bring in the cube here, and I'm going to start playing with my shape keys, you can see that this one works, but this one, the first one, doesn't really seem to work. But that's just because this is like a weird surface. So if I go inside of it here, you can see that it is actually working. It's just being weird. So it is actually working, but yeah. So let me just bring that down again. Next thing we need to do is make a new material. And actually first, hold on, let's bring in our orifice hole and bring that into our scene. And I'm gonna move it outside. And then I'm just gonna rotate this -90 degrees on the X, so it's pointed towards us. And I'm just gonna move it in somewhat down the middle. Next, we go to right click, create material. I'm just gonna assign this to the cube. And I'm gonna put the shader to Piomi Pro. And I'm gonna make the color something like red. And just so we can see what's going on better, I'm just gonna make this metallic. Why not? And I'm gonna make it smooth, so we see what's going on better. And next we hold on, let me just unpack these prefabs so quick. So next thing we need to do is assign the orifice underneath the cube, so it's parented to the cube. And now we need to go to Tools, Raliv, Orifice Setup. And next we need to drag and drop our cube onto here. And now we can set the entrance. So the first thing that is going to be deforming is trigger 1, depth 1, trigger 2, and trigger 3. So you can actually have up to 4. So we could have made more, but yeah. And then we hit generate texture. And what that does is, if I go and see this material, if I go into third party and under here, and then actually activate orifice, you can see that it generated this texture, this acid. I'm not sure what they call it, but yeah. And this actually has the information that it needs to, that it's gonna, of the things that it's gonna deform. So make sure that if you're making this for a model that you're going to be selling, make sure that you actually do include this. Otherwise, it's not going to work at all. So just be aware of that. But all these settings here, they basically allow you to determine at which depth your shape keys should activate. So I can change the depth and duration of my shape keys here. So just so you know that this is a thing you can change. The next thing we're going to do is set up our penetrator model. So if I go and bring in the prefab, because it is necessary that you do use the prefab to help configure your own custom one. So I'm just going to grab this, let me just unpack it real quick, and then move it into, you can see it actually already started working. So our object is working, but let me just rotate this 90 degrees, 180 degrees minus 180 to make sure that it's pointing towards it. And I'm going to bring in our, so it seems I actually forgot to import the cone that we made. So I've got it here now. Sorry about that. Let me just hit this real quick. And now we bring it in our cone and parent it to the prefab. Here we are. Let me just unpack it. And now we need to make sure that this is zeroed out, that our rotation and our scale of the object that we're going to be using is zeroed out. So this means that if you wanted this smaller, like so, that means you actually have to go in Blender and scale it, scale it accordingly. I don't advise scaling this in Unity because it might break your shader. It might break the shader. So just keep that in mind. So now we need to make sure Now we need to actually set up the shader. So I'm gonna hide this one, the original one, and I'm gonna go to Tools, Raliv. Actually, hold on. First, we need to go to Create Material, and we need to assign a Pyomi Pro material, and then we need to go to third party, and just need to check this. And you might notice it's gone now. That's okay. Now we go to Tools, Raliv, and we go to Penetrator Setup, and then we're gonna go and grab the prefab that we used, place it in there, and then we're gonna grab our cone, and then go and hit Prepare Custom Model, and here it is again. Now you might see that we have two game objects here, transforms that we can manipulate. So this is the tip, and this is the base. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that everything above the base here is the things of the model, is the part of the model that we're going to be deforming. And the tip is going to be the top of our penetrator model. So we just need to make sure that this is set up properly. So let me go into side view and make sure that this is exactly on the tip, and then this is somewhere like so. Now we're done, and we just hit Generate Custom Model. And now we can make sure that that it works, but you can also change values here of your penetrator model. I'll leave this up to you to just play with this. So yeah. So if I start moving this one into here now, you can see that it starts being sucked up into our object. So, and you can see our shape keys are activating. If we go inside, this is starting to, this moves, this is open. So yeah, with these concepts that I've taught you right now, I think you can kind of understand what you can do with this system, and what is possible. And if you learned something from this video, do let me know. And yeah, until the next one, goodbye.